What's up, guys, and welcome to the fight fallout of UFC on Fox 25, which was at Long Island, the home of Chris, the All-American Weidman, who went against Kelvin Gastelum in what was really a do-or-die fight for Weidman. But first off, I'm going to be talking about Jimmy Rivera versus Thomas Almeida. Now, Thomas Almeida is a guy who, he's had a lot of hype behind him, but it was derailed by Cody Garbrandt because of the fact that he just ran into Cody Garbrandt's punches. And if you know anything about Cody Garbrandt, it's that he hits hard as fuck, so you can't exactly just be going to do that. And Thomas Almeida looked really dumb doing that. Jimmy Rivera, on the other hand, he looked amazing against Uriah Faber not too long ago, and he got a unanimous decision win, and really was pretty much proven as one of the best prospects, especially in the bantamweight division. Now, these two came face-to-face, and Jimmy Rivera did work and got the win. And if you look at the rankings, which I'm doing right now, Jimmy Rivera is now tied for 4th with John Lineker. I don't know exactly how that works for tied for 4th, but apparently they're tied for 4th. Now, I don't think he's quite ready for one of the top 3 guys, because if you look at the way it's set up, right now TJ and Garbrandt are supposed to be fighting. Then Dominic Cruz is almost certainly going to be getting an automatic rematch for his title. So that's pretty much the top 3 guys already set. What I think would be a very, very interesting thing would be to put Jimmy Rivera against either John Lineker or Rafael Sunsao. I don't know if either one of those guys are already booked for a fight, so I do apologize if they are. But I think that would be a very, very solid test for Jimmy Rivera, because Uriah Faber was already towards the end of his career. I think that was like the next last fight he had. So it's a different Uriah Faber than maybe what John Lineker or a Sunsao could provide when it comes to being a test. I think that with a win over either one of those guys, he would definitely be given a title shot. After, obviously, Dominic Cruz, because Dominic Cruz, he might even have a trilogy, if you think about it, against either one of those guys. If DJ beats Garbrandt, they might go for a rematch there because of the beef. If Dominic Cruz ends up beating either one guy, there's definitely a chance for a trilogy. So that might take a while for Jimmy Rivera, but I do think that those are the only 2 guys that really make sense in that weight class. And I definitely think that he could beat both guys, because John Lineker, let's just be real, he's sort of a one-punch machine. He's got that right hand. That's pretty much it. Or left hand. I think it's a right hand, though. I don't remember if he's southpaw or not. I think he's right-handed. But I think that that's pretty much a very winnable fight for Jimmy Rivera. And I do think that he will be in a title shot in the very near future, because he's a very, very good fighter. He's very, very good. I think he might be the most well-rounded guy apart from the top. Honestly, I think he's probably more well-rounded than Cody Garbrandt, because I think Garbrandt, he doesn't quite have the wrestling defense that Jimmy Rivera has proven to have. So we'll see what happens there. That'd be a very interesting fight. Jimmy Rivera has a great chin. I don't know. Well, that would be a very interesting fight. So no matter what happens in that bantamweight division, there's plenty to look forward to. And Thomas Almeida, who was ranked 9 before this fight, he's definitely going to be needing to take on somebody like Aljamain Sterling, depending on what Sterling does. Taking on one of those guys who are a little bit lower ranked, because right now he hasn't really proven that he deserves one of the really top guys. So top 10 guy for him, maybe top 15 would be pretty much ideal for him. Next up, we have Patrick Cummins, who somehow went out there. He looked fucked up after that fight, and he somehow managed to beat John Vellante. John Vellante, who was one of the hometown heroes there. Honestly, I've always been saying this about John Vellante. He's one of those guys that just doesn't quite have what it takes in this win in the UFC. I mean, he's not a bad fighter. He's ranked number 13, so obviously he's a very good fighter, but I just don't think that he has what it takes to really be competing with the top guys, especially in a 205 division, which isn't necessarily very stacked. But if you look at the top fighters, Alexander Gustafsson, who looked amazing in his last fight against Glover Teixeira. John Jones is obviously the greatest of all time. Daniel Cormier isn't losing to John Vellante, and I'm looking at the rankings right now. I don't see him beating Glover Teixeira. I don't see him beating Uzdemir. I don't really see him even beating Shogun. I think they already fought and Shogun destroyed him. So, I mean, I just don't see what he can really do in here. All the way up to, even number 7 with Ovince St. Preux. It's just hard for me to see him beating any of these guys. Even Misha Cirkunov. I don't see him beating any of these guys. So I just don't think he's at the level at the UFC where he needs to be able to really be able to compete with any of these guys. So I think he should probably just go to Bellator or something like that once his contract expires. Possibly do some work there, but really even there, Ryan Bader's going to destroy him. Phil Davis is going to destroy him. I don't know. He's not a bad fighter. I just don't think he's at the level of anybody else in that division. And now Patrick Cummins, who was ranked just one position ahead of him in number 12, he definitely has to be moving past Little Nog and maybe even Ilir Latifi, because they've just been sitting there. He's pretty much guaranteed to be a top 10 fighter right now. And I don't think that there's any other matchup that would make a lot of sense other than maybe OSP. But I can't remember exactly if they have fought before. I think they may have already fought, excuse me. But even Patrick Cummins, I just don't see him being a top 10 guy for very long. And even if he is, he's maybe one of those guys that'll win one, lose one, win one, lose one. So I don't really have a lot of faith in him, and considering the beatdowns that he takes against top 15 guys, I'm worried about what will happen to his brain when he goes to take on some of the even higher ranked guys. So Patrick Cummins, John Vellante are both guys I don't see as UFC level. So I don't know, maybe Patrick Cummins against somebody like Misha Serkinov wouldn't be too bad. But other than that, I'm not really that interested in seeing him fight just because, it's hard to really be interested for guys that aren't at the top level. And yes, he's put on some good fights lately. But at the same time, we all know we're talking about a guy who isn't at the elite UFC level. Next up, we're going to be talking about a very just strange fight, Dennis Bermudez versus Darren Elkins. Now, with all due respect to Darren Elkins, I didn't expect him to do anything against Dennis Bermudez because, yes, he got that amazing comeback win recently. But, he's just not that good. They call him the damage for a reason. They don't call him damage because he does a lot of damage. They call him damage because he has monster brain damage. I was watching a video yesterday with my brother where he was talking about, I'm Darren Elkins and they call me the damage because wherever I fight I get caught and I always seem to have a lot of damage. It's like, no shit you have a lot of damage, dude. You can barely talk. And that really, really sucks because he doesn't seem like a bad guy or anything. He just seems like he's completely brain dead. And that really does suck. And I didn't expect a guy like Dennis Bermudez who, with all due respect once again to Dennis Bermudez, he is a guy who's pretty good, but he seems to make a lot of mistakes. And I didn't expect him to make a lot of mistakes against Darren Elkins, who has a lot of punching power and things like that. But I just don't have a lot of respect. Not that I don't have any respect. I don't have a lot of regard for him at an elite level. And even though Dennis Bermudez does seem to lose one, maybe win two, lose one, he is still a guy that is always around the top 10, top 5 level because he's always able to at least compete well with guys like Jeremy Stevens or Cub Swanson who are at the elite level. And I didn't expect him to have any problems with Darren Elkins, who is probably going to be taking a spot around the top 10 now because Darren Elkins was ranked number 12, Dennis Bermudez is number 10. They may have swapped positions right now, and it's just very bizarre because Darren Elkins, at this stage of his career, he really shouldn't be doing this, but he is. He's got 2 wins in a row, obviously 2 pretty solid wins. One was a super upset and one was against a solid fighter like Dennis Bermudez. So who the fuck knows? He might be getting himself a shot against somebody like Renato Moicano or even Brian Ortega. I don't think he's going to do anything against those guys, maybe even against like Jeremy Stevens. Personally, I would hope he doesn't fight those guys because of the fact that he's just so fucked up in the head right now. I hope he doesn't kill himself in there because he could possibly be one of the first deaths in the octagon because of how fucked up he is. I hope it doesn't happen. But you never know. If this guy does want to keep fighting against these top-level guys, I don't know what the hell's going to happen to him. And obviously, the fact that he's training at Team Alpha Male, he's going to get the big matchups because he is training with an elite team. And he is, at this point, I guess you could say, a top 10 fighter. So, I'm really, really confused at what the fuck's going on with Darren Elkins' career. His opponent, meanwhile, Dennis Bermudez, obviously losing to a guy like Darren Elkins, it's not a good thing. It's not a good look for him. With all due respect to Elkins, once again, he's just not one of those elite guys. And to lose against him is not good for your career, especially because you are a guy who tends to have cold streaks. So, what's next for him? A guy like maybe Doo Ho Choi, that would be a very good fight, a very fun one. Sorry, I keep touching my nose. It would be a very fun fight against Doo Ho Choi. I do favor Doo Ho Choi in that matchup. I just do because Dennis Bermudez hasn't really shown, other than the fact that he has good wrestling and that he has some decent punching power, that he can beat one of these elite guys. And I think Doo Ho Choi is very young. I think he has so much talent in him, and I think he would beat Dennis Bermudez. So maybe Mirsad Bektic, a guy like that. Henan Barao, he's not eligible to fight at 135, at least in California, so what the fuck's going to happen with him? Maybe Dennis Bermudez versus Barao would be a good fight if Barao does move up to 145 again. I don't know, there's a lot of options for him, but none that really stick out there okay, this is going to really step up his career. Now let's go ahead and talk about the main event, starting off with Kelvin Gastelum. Let's go ahead and get the loser of the fight out of the way. And I don't really think he is a loser in this fight because of the fact that, if you look at him, he's a much smaller guy than Chris Weidman. He's a much smaller guy than most middleweights. And he's coming up from being a welterweight contender. He was forced to move up because of his weight problems, the fact that he always misses weight. So for him to go out there and really do what he did against Chris Weidman was very impressive. He beat Vitor Belfort, but realistically, Vitor is an old man who doesn't look anywhere near what he used to look like physically because of the fact that he's not allowed to use testosterone anymore. And so that's not a really big win. Pretty much anybody would beat Vitor right now. And who did he beat recently? Can't remember who he beat, but it was robbery. So yeah, that's kind of fucked up. But it is what it is. I don't think that there's really a lot for Kelvin Gastelum to do in this weight class, to be honest with you. He could still improve. His hands are very good. His wrestling is good. Obviously, Weidman really showed what the difference is between his wrestling and a guy like Gastelum. It's just fucking night and day. But he does have a lot of talent. there's definitely no doubt that he could compete at this weight class. I don't think he's a top 5 guy. I think he's like a top 6, top 7. But he's still a pretty respectable fighter at middleweight. I think he needs to find a way to get himself fixed up at welterweight and really be a contender there, because he is a great talent there. He has the size, he has the skill. Even there, he's kind of small, but he still has at least the close enough size to be able to compete with those guys and really do damage. And I think that he showed against Johnny Hendricks, he showed against Tyron Woodley. He is a legit fighter at welterweight, and he needs to find a way to consistently make weight there. Just find nutrition to pay up if you want to be a world champion. That's what you have to do. And I think that's what he needs to do. Go back down to welterweight, beat somebody like maybe, I don't know, somebody like a... You never know. If Robbie Lawler or Donald Cerrone slip up, whoever loses that fight, I would like to see Kelvin Gastelum fight one of those two guys. I think that would be a very, very good matchup and a very good test for Kelvin against really elite fighters in the welterweight division. We saw what he did against a middleweight elite. What can he do against a welterweight elite now, especially after he's already beaten Tyron Woodley and Johnny Hendricks? So obviously Johnny Hendricks, after USADA, has been going to shit, but he still beat Tyron Woodley, which is a solid win. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, what exactly goes down if he does compete against a guy like Robbie Lawler or Donald Cerrone, who are at the very top level in the welterweight division. Now, Weidman looked pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I was very skeptical about this. I picked him to win in this fight, but I was very doubtful. I sort of had my doubts. Why? Well, because he's been on such a bad skid, and it seemed like it was all mental, because the skill was always there. Now, obviously, losing to Rockhold, he got brutalized against Rockhold. He got brutalized against Yoel Romero, but he was doing well against Romero, and he was doing well against Mousasi before he essentially got knocked out, and he played possum and stuff like that. He wanted the fight to be disqualified so he could get the easy win. It didn't go for him. That was kind of a bitch move there, but, it is what it is. That's what happens when you have fighters that get rocked, and they want to take advantage of what they see as a possible chance to get an easy win, especially if they're being on a skid like that. So I was a bit skeptical about what he was going to do in this fight. Luckily for him, he went out there and he got the win. He looked really good, to be honest with you. Like, apart from getting rocked by Kelvin at the end of that first round, he pretty much looked flawless. He was taking some shots, and his wrestling was just looking so much better than Kelvin's. It wasn't even funny. I think that he still has a lot to do in this weight class. I think that he hasn't reached his full potential. I think there is a ton for him to do, and the fact that he really did do a great job of calling out Bisping and getting in his face, and even on Twitter they're having monster beefs, like Bisping is pissed off about Weidman talking shit about his eye and things like that, and he's getting himself in the running for a title shot. Right now it's unclear what the fuck Bisping wants to do, because of the fact that he wants to fight GSP for the money fight, obviously, and he obviously he doesn't want anything to do with Yoel Romero, and against Robert Whittaker he probably wants to avoid him, because Robert Whittaker is better than him in every single way. He's a much better striker. He's got the gas tank. He also has the wrestling defense. So there's really nothing Bisping's going to be able to do to, in my opinion, beat Robert Whittaker. I think it's going to be a fucking easy fight for Whittaker. Obviously, Bisping's a tough dude, but I think Whittaker finishes him within the first 2 rounds. I mean, he's got heavy fucking hands. Bisping does not have heavy hands. So I think it's just going to be a pretty easy win for Whittaker. And realistically, anybody from Whittaker to Romero to Rockhold to Souza to Weidman, I think all these guys have easy wins against Michael Bisping. I mean, realistically, that's just the way it is. Bisping is one of those champs that, yes, he is there because let's be real, he knocked out Luke Rockhold, but Luke Rockhold was seeing him as if he was like some kind of Teletubby dancing around. That's what he expected to go against. So it's not like he was facing a guy that was really taking him seriously. Rockhold, it cost Rockhold the title, and then he managed to somehow, in my opinion, rob Dan Henderson. I think Dan Henderson won that fight. So he's not really the champ. I mean, realistically, Robert Whittaker, in my opinion, is a much more deserving champ than Michael Bisping. So I think he will get that W. But Chris Weidman, like I was saying, I think that Chris Weidman, realistically, I would love to see him fight a guy like Jacare. Jacare is coming off of a loss, but he was above Weidman in the rankings. Weidman now got a win against a guy who is realistically a welterweight. So put them against each other. See what the hell happens there. That would be an excellent matchup. They have pretty evenly matched striking, in my opinion. And on the ground, obviously, Jacare is a much better fighter when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Wrestling-wise, I think Weidman is a far superior fighter than Jacare. So I think it may be really evenly matched both on the feet and on the ground. So I would love to see that fight, and the winner could go ahead and maybe get a title shot against the winner between Robert Whittaker and Michael Bisping, or even take on Luke Rockhold. Now, Luke Rockhold has been inactive for a while. Apparently, if I'm not mistaken, I saw an Instagram post by him saying that he has news coming up very soon. I may be wrong, though. Hopefully, he will have a fight soon. I don't know what exactly he's waiting for, so I would love to see him fight, even Jacare or Weidman, the winner of that fight. But Weidman might be out for a while because he did get rocked by that punch early on, so we'll see what happens there. If not, even Rockhold versus Jacare would be an excellent fight. Make that a main event. It was scheduled recently to have. And maybe the winner fights Chris Weidman again or fights for the title, and then Chris Weidman fights the loser of Whittaker-Bisping. There's just a lot of things to do right now for Chris Weidman. I'm very happy for the guy to get that win back, to get back in the win column because he desperately needed it. And I do hope that he can continue to rise because he is a good guy. And obviously the whole his dad getting the octagon thing and saying, "That's my boy!" That thing is as cheesy as it gets, but it's just the way it is. You know, it's a good thing. It's a whole family thing for them. It's really important for him. So I can't really complain about that. So hopefully Weidman will be put against some tough guys because I think there's some great matchups for him left. And I think that he's, 31, maybe 32 years old. He still has a ton to do in this sport. He still has a ton to do. It wasn't very long ago that he was talking about going up to fight John Jones for that super fight. I mean, you never know. With John Jones coming back, and I think he's going to smoke DC this weekend, and with the fact that Chris Weidman may be able to still get himself back in the contention of middleweight, you never know, man. He might still be a contender in that weight class, and he might still be able to go ahead get a super fight eventually. Obviously, John Jones coming back is going to light up DC. He's probably going to beat Gustafsson and then move up maybe to heavyweight and stuff like that. But I think right now, after losing so much time, I think John's just focused on really going back to light heavyweight and just clearing out that division. So Weidman, focus on middleweight. Focus on getting yourself a title shot. And you never know what the fuck's up there. And that's what that weight class went from being trash about a year ago to being really fucking stacked right now. Because I'm going to go ahead and read off the names of the contenders in this weight class. We have Michael Bisping as the champion, Robert Whittaker, Yo Romero, Luke Rockhold, Jacare Souza, and Chris Weidman. That's 6 fucking elite fighters right there in the mix, except for Michael Bisping, you know, but he's the champion. Have to name him there. Anderson Silva is also in the mix right there. Derek Brunson, who I think he beat Anderson Silva. He's also a really good fighter. They're all right there in the mix. There's a lot of upside in this weight class, and I look forward to seeing what happens there. Let me know in the comment section down below if you were surprised by any of the matchups at UFC on Fox 25. Were you surprised by any of the wins, especially Darren Elkins? Do you think that was fucking shocking, or do you think that did you expect that? I'd be shocked if anybody expected that. Also, what do you want to see Chris Weidman do next? Rockhold, Romero, Bisping, Whittaker. Which obviously Bisping and Whittaker are matched up unless GSP somehow gets himself a title fight. Who do you want to see Weidman fight? There's a lot of great matchups there. And just let me know what you think is next for middleweight. Thank you so much for watching, guys. It has been a while since I did one of these videos, especially a full-fledged video about MMA. I've been having a lot of fucking time issues. I will be coming back very, very soon. This is going to be the first of International Fight Week. I think this is actually International Fight Week. I'm actually might be wrong. I think it was earlier on when there was like 2 cards. Yeah, that's right. This isn't International Fight Week. I'm just stupid. But it is Dago Fight Week because it's my birthday. July 29th is my birthday, and I'm hoping John Jones will give me a great birthday present by beating the hell out of Daniel Cormier, who I always send messages on Xbox Live to, but he never fucking answers me. So today I sent him a little message saying, "Finna get that ass whooped, huh, DC?" But he didn't answer me, obviously. I think he's ducking me. I wonder why. I like to mix it up, like send him a positive message, then sending him a hate message. I don't really have any beef with him, but obviously I'm a John Jones fan, so fuck DC. And I love DC, but fuck him. Mixed emotions, but hopefully John Jones will give me that birthday present. So check out the preview video. It will be coming out probably Thursday or Friday, and I'll see you in that next video, and also for the next fight Fallout.